Leadership that lasts is not something that is built overnight. No, it's forged through service, through tested under pressure, through being strengthened through adversity, and sustained by integrity over time. We know that the strongest leaders are not simply remembered for what they accomplished, they are remembered for how they led people, built trust, and created impact that outlived their titles. Well, listen, I'm super excited about this discussion that we're going to have today. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast, where resilience and growth and transformation meet real world experience and practical wisdom. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're honored to have a powerful conversation with Gene Garland on the topic leadership that lasts. Today's conversation, I can tell you in advance, it's going to challenge you and I as leaders to think beyond temporary success and for us to focus on sustainable influence, servant leadership, trust, and long term impact. And this is a great time right now for you to go ahead and invite another leader to watch this episode or to listen to this episode with you. Transformation Station is the place where we grow from the inside out. So I remind you to join us regularly as we engage in influential leaders, as we engage with influential leaders, executives, coaches, entrepreneurs, and change makers like yourself, people who are making lasting impact in our organizations and communities. Well, as I mentioned to you, we have an amazing guest today. We have a retired Navy Command Master Chief Gene Garland. He now is leading military outreach for U.S. Senator Mark Warner. Gene brings decades of leadership experience from both military and civilian service, and his journey reflects what it means to lead with discipline, humility, resilience, and service across changing environments and evolving missions. It is my honor today to have you with us, Gene. Welcome to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled to be here, and I appreciate the offer. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking to myself, Gene, leadership that lasts. Typically, leadership that lasts, from what I've seen over the years, is it's
Mhm.
leadership that's built through consistency and credibility and service that takes place over time, right? I know so many
Yes.
times people want to be seen and recognized as a leader right now. They want to just be
Mhm.
a leader, but in order to do this well, to really learn to understand how to lead, it takes time, right? Our titles
Yes.
change, our
Yes.
environments may shift, our
Yes.
missions will evolve, but leaders who make the greatest impact I found are those who remain grounded, right? So I want to start off by asking you this question.
Okay.
After serving as a retired Navy Command Master Chief, what leadership principles have remained consistent as you're now in this new role, right? What leadership principles have remained consistent across both military and civilian service?
Well, I can say that personal connection leads to personal motivation.
Mm,
If you show me and not just say it, then and you show me you're really interested in seeing me be successful, then
mhm,
that person will work hard for you. Um,
mm,
Everyone says things like play the game, but
mhm.
when you try, no one teaches you the rules. And then
Mercy.
as the game season evolve, if no one shows you the rules, then you're sit there kind of confused. What
Mm,
God has opened the door for me to be able to do is to not only have the rules revealed, but
mhm,
actually help people along to get better.
mm,
When I was on WASP way back in 2000, probably before you were even born, um, I was blessed to be USS WASP Junior Sailor of the Year. And then
mhm,
the awesome Command Master Chief Delta Henson had this program where my Sailor of the Year, Junior Sailor of the Year, they're going to go to be Best Tech Master in Arms. That's not the
mhm,
reward. But by
Mm-hmm.
going down there, it taught me through hell and high fire with the
Mm-hmm.
world of food service attendants. So it's 3,000 people in Big Deck Airfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your enlisted mess is about um, 2,000 of that, and you got to manage a ragtag team of about 40 to 50 people. They don't
Mm-hmm.
always send their best and brightest to be food service attendants, but you
Mm-hmm.
had to make it work, keep order, understand what the mission is, get people fed, and support with security. And it, for
Mm-hmm.
me, was a crash course. I actually had a good time, and some people even got promoted.
Mercy. I love it. It's almost like bloom where you're planted, right?
Yes.
And as I listen to what you just shared, some of the principles that I heard you talk about is one, communication and service to people. Like you got put in that role and you had to very quickly figure out, how do I communicate, right? With the people that I'm called to serve, with the people that I'm working with, whether they're the brightest or not, right? How do I continue to provide a service? Which to me also means that you had to have a sense of integrity, right? To be honest and faithful to the job, right? And
Mhm.
accountability. And these are some of the principles that, whether we're in the military or civilian leadership. And so I want to thank you for sharing that. And here on Transformation Station, we always like to take a few moments just to look at best practices and principles. And so Gene and I share with you a best practice, right? Lead with transparency and
Yeah.
consistency in both words and actions. I'm going to just to pull this off the cuff for a moment. So, Gene, when we look at being consistent in both words and actions, right?
Mhm.
What have you seen over the years as to why it is important for leaders to lead with consistency, transparency in their words and their actions?
Because I think people are burned out with people saying one thing and then leading the other. Saying I'm for the people, but all about self. Saying I'm
Mercy.
going to make people better, but nobody gets promoted, no one gets recognized, no one gets better, and that person's picture is everywhere. I think
Mhm,
people are burned out with those type of leaders, right? Everyone
mhm.
has the open door policy until somebody walks in the open door,
Mercy.
and then they don't know what to do when the person walks in the open door.
Yeah.
I think people are burned out. It's important to lead with transparency and consistency because the end product shows whether you were true to what you said.
Mercy. Mercy. I love it. So how has your experience with leading sailors at the highest enlisted levels, how has that shaped the way you now support veterans, military families, and community partnerships?
Well, the first thing I experienced with that is everyone is different. Now, I'm about to say a really bad word. I hope
Okay.
you don't bleep it out. The word is diversity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you learn the power that really is diversity, and I'm not just talking about race, I'm talking about gender, I'm talking about generation. There is a such thing as male privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And if you realize that as a male, you have male privilege, but you have female leaders that work for you, you have to use that to make them better. You got
Mm-hmm.
to get them into rooms in front of the right people, right? Um, and you also have to have the diversity of generations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Generation X, born in the 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my first Grandmaster tour, I had folks that were Gen X, that were millennials, and Generation Alpha. And then when I began to kind of understand how the generations are different, then I had to find out what motivated each one of them, get them
Mm-hmm.
on board with the mission, and show I'm not only just planting words on you, I want to see you do better. And when they
Mm-hmm.
actually saw that regardless of generation they were, that my interest was really real, VFA 34, we went to one time a 14% promotion rate. You heard me
Wow.
right, 14% promotion rate to, by the grace of God, 89.9%.
Wow.
Um, and because they saw I would take my CMC indoctrination and then turn it into a class of here's how you get promoted off taking a nationwide advancement exam. And it worked. When people saw I cared about their pockets, their safety, cared
Mm-hmm.
about them getting recognized. When I
Mm-hmm.
got to 34, our Sailor of the Year was handpicked by a small group. I changed the process to we put a board in place where we did board training, and it worked. I had one of my folks make it up to the wing level.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get anything. So I set up to where they get a nice trophy, where they got stuff to share with the spouse. They saw my interest was really genuine because
Yeah.
I'd listened to them. I saw what
Mm.
was going on, and I showed them this is how I can make you better.
Mm, I love it. So, if I hear you clearly, what you're saying is that as leaders, we have to invest in our people, right? Not just
Yes.
tell them what to do, being this authority figure. You have to take the time to sow into them, to teach them, to mentor them, to coach them, to invest, to show them that you really care, right? I love that. Um, and this reinforces how holistic leadership is today, right? Um, effective if I hear you correctly, effective partnerships, effective teams happen when leaders listen first, build relationships intentionally, and understand the real needs of the people that they're serving. And what you just shared with us showed that you took the time to understand the real needs and then not just recognize it, but actually
Right.
do something about it. Yeah, do
Yes.
something about it. No, that's fantastic. So let me ask you this question, right?
Mhm.
Project management and
Mhm.
military leadership,
Mhm.
both of them require they require trust, they require
Mhm.
precision, they require accountability. So how can today's leaders apply these same principles, trust, precision, accountability? How can leaders today apply these same principles to lead teams more effectively in any industry?
Well, the first thing to have to do in order to lead teams more effectively is you got to one know your team, know the
Mm,
circumstance, and know the mission. So here I was, an NC Master Chief on board, Gerald Ford, had done carrier, bid deck and fib, carrier, right? And my first command master tour, I get sent to an aviation squadron, which I've never done before. The awesome Tanisha Troop on board for as I was leaving was telling me, Gene, aviation is different, and I got there, so it was really different. So I had folks who, like I say, one God first, then folks like Anthony Sanders who would kind of share, hey, squadrons are not like other things. So I had to learn my team. I had to learn my squadron. I had to learn what they did. I actually did seat checks with them. I actually went on the flight deck as we were launching and recovering aircraft. And they
mm,
actually saw me down there chalking and chaining. I remember one
mhm.
time they gave me a round of applause, like, wow, this guy's going to get dirty. And when I went down there and did that, it kind of built trust with them because they saw I was willing to get down there and be dirty with them. And
Mm,
because of that, I learned the atmosphere, I learned the culture, I learned the climate, and it helped me to have precision engagement. It helped me
mm,
when the sailor got in trouble. I remember walking with this guy at the flight deck. I remember he's from Boston, Massachusetts, and he was the first one in his family to graduate from high school. And his family lived in a trailer park, and they had been in trailers for generations.
mm,
And they were so proud of his success. And when
mm,
he brought his family to the squadron one Saturday, I just happened to be there, and I could name who was there and the story and what it was about. They were really kind of surprised. That's because
mhm,
I took an interest in him, helped
mhm.
him, and then tried to position him for greater success.
Mm. Well, first of all, I have to say shout out to Anthony Sanders. I know him. He actually was a guest for us last year here
Okay.
on Transformation Station. So we have to definitely make sure he sees this episode. But also, again, just a phenomenal
Mm.
illustration and example of how to do this in real life. Like for real, right? Taking the
Mhm.
time to know your people's names, taking the time to ask questions about their families, taking the time to give recognition, right? Shared ownership, shared responsibility, sharing the wins as well as sharing the losses. This is what builds trust within teams. And a leadership principle that we can share with our leaders today: clarity strengthens execution. Teams function best when expectations and responsibilities are clearly understood. And as you were sharing that, that was a part of that ethos that you developed and that you put out there and really built a culture where there was clarity and built a culture where your people felt empowered. And I have no doubt that what you did was leave a legacy. There are people that you were leading that realized the value in what you were sharing with them and have moved on to do the same. And I have found, Gene, that teams perform better when communication is clear, when
Mhm.
there is a shared ownership and accountability is consistent without
Yeah.
micromanagement, right? Because then
Yeah.
people feel empowered to take what you've taught them and to actually execute it. And I think that is so effective. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that's really, really effective. The other thing you have to do is you have to change your mental model. For example, you see behind me the wall, there's a certification for leadership, there's a master's degree, there's a bachelor's degree. You have to change your mental model and expand your capacity. That way, when you deal with the stuff you haven't dealt with before, you have information and wisdom to share. You have
Mm,
to. Because if you don't, you stay stoic. You're not effective. You don't make people better.
absolutely. So then tell us this, right? What
Mhm.
lessons from your Navy career What lessons from your Navy career taught you the importance of resilience and adaptability and decision making under pressure? That's a big one. And then how do those lessons apply? How can those lessons apply to leaders today?
So I was on a certain ship where I worked for a master chief who was notoriously to be racist. And here's my evidence to that. One time I was an E7, person was master chief. I went, I had duty, and then I went back to office, and all of a sudden there was a meeting with the Force Career Counselor for Surface Forces, African American female, Force Master Chief for Air Forces career counselor, African American female, and I was shocked to see him there. And they set me down. They said, "Hey, Gene, are you gonna be okay?" I was like, "Well, why are y'all here?" They said,
Mhm.
"We're here because the guy you're working for has had 13 equal opportunity complaints,
Wow.
13 equal opportunity between four different ships." And
Mm,
then now name one of them, Pollyanna Neely is a great leader. And then
mm,
she said, "Do you know how many of these have been founded?" I said, "No." She said, "Zero." Do you know why? Why? Because they disappeared. Are you going
mm,
to be okay? I said, "Hey, I got the Lord. I'm going to be okay." Needless to say, I learned quickly when that in work with that person, nothing I did was right. Nothing I did was great. It was a constant pressure of how can this person embarrass me? I'm thinking I'm E7, he's an E9. I'm a man of faith. And one day I just asked the Lord, and the response I got from the Holy Spirit was, "Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his 10,000s.
mhm,
Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his 10,000. He's jealous of you." And I couldn't
mm,
understand that. And,
mm,
and I think that put me in a pressure place where, one, I couldn't go to the guy who was my same rating or job field because I couldn't trust him. Two,
mm,
I had to stay prayerful. And three, I had to make sure I honed up all my technical skills because
mhm,
this same individual would go for people and make statements that were technically inaccurate. One
mm,
point to where the CEO, Captain Herman Shalansky, called because this guy had made a statement, asked me if it was true. I said, "Well, no, that program's been gone since 2000." And I explained to him what happened to that program. And then Captain Herman Shalansky said, "Okay, the XO validated what you said. He sundowned the program that your Master Chief said was still active. From now on, you're the career counselor I'm coming to."
mm,
He said, "And tell your master chief I said that." So I had to
mm,
share that with that guy, and things got worse. But I
mm,
never forget the day of the heart attack.
mm,
I had come in and I had got cussed out because the deck wasn't stripped. Well, I'm a chief. I manage people to do that. I got cussed out for something else. And I just told the NC1, "Hey, I'm going to do NDOC." So I left to go do NDOC. And I didn't pay attention. They called away a medical emergency. And then by the time I came in, that person had a heart attack. Uh,
mm,
so I learned, one, you reap what you sow, because you got to
mm,
be careful how you do people.
mm,
Two, that person did come back, but eventually got him off the ship.
mhm,
And three, I ended up catching up to him rank wise. Uh,
mm,
because one, I had to have a trust in God. Two,
mhm,
I got to realize there's people that still look at me for what I look like and think I'm less than you. And that's not true. God
mm,
doesn't make me that way. So you're not going to make me feel that way. Three, it put a pressure on me, but that pressure helped me get into the books a lot more. So when you
mm,
make chief, you don't take your test. But
mm,
I was consistently in the books to be technically smart. There's this guy named Mike Sakit, one of the best Navy counselors after he's retired. And he used to have a thing of memorizing instructions. Well, I
mm,
started kind of doing the same thing. So when this master chief started saying things that wasn't instruction, I could quote chapter and verse because I
mhm,
knew what it was. Um, This helped me, one, to remain faithful to God because God took care of me. Two,
Mm-hmm.
off that tour, God promoted me to NCCS, and then went to Great Lakes, handpicked to come to Ford, and then made NC Master Chief before becoming a CMC.
Wow.
And it's important that, one, it taught me resiliency. No one likes to come in and every day be bashed and every day be cussed out, and you never do anything right, and you never or good enough. No one likes that, right? But it taught me I had to trust God, and God was faithful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. As I listened to you share, I was thinking to myself that resilience is not about avoiding stress. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the way you framed the context of what you were sharing with us. Like, you didn't run away from it. You share with us that it was tough, right? You had to have some come to Jesus moments with yourself, right? And really
Yes.
pray. Just be like, what in the world is going on? What am I supposed to do? But you learn through the process how to recover, how to adjust, and how to keep leading despite, in the face of, the adversity. And to all of the leaders who are listening
Mm-hmm.
and watching right now, Jean and I want to remind you that yes, you're going to face adversity. I mean, we
Yes,
live
Lord.
right now in a rapidly changing environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ability to lose your composure will definitely present itself, but when you take the time to pause, to assess, and to respond strategically, right? Instead of reacting emotionally under pressure, then you give yourself the space and the room to end up having not just right now success, but
Mm-hmm.
long-term leadership success. And many
Yeah.
times you won't have to go looking for how to resolve things or for the success. The success will come to you. So leaders, Gene and I want to give you a best practice, right? Train yourself to pause, to assess, and to respond strategically instead of reacting emotionally under pressure. I had a colleague recently who said to me, we were talking about just like how fast paced things are nowadays. And the colleague said to me, when you get an email that triggers you, you don't have to answer right away. Like, you
Right.
don't have to read it and then respond right away. Like,
Right.
pause, get your mindset out of the emotionalism of it so that you can
Mm-hmm.
stop and say, what is true? What is real? What's the best way for me to respond?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and if we take when we take time to pause, man, that saves us from so many conflicting situations, right? Stability
Yes.
under pressure strengthens trust and decision making. So let me ask you this question, right? We have a community here, leadership community. So for the emerging leaders that are listening and watching that want to lead with discipline and with
Mm-hmm.
service and with long-term impact like you, what mindset shift or what daily habit would you encourage emerging leaders to develop first?
I would say the first thing to do is seek wisdom and humility.
Mm.
Um, I've had some awesome command masters. Alan R. Walker III, Delta Leroy Henson, R.T. McLean, uh, Anthony Sanders, um, ITCM Don Stoddard. You learn the wisdom from these folks, and then what you do is you change your capacity or your impact of thinking based on what you gain from those. I tell you, if you don't educate yourself on what is different, you'll always stay the same. You have to volunteer sometimes to do the things that stretch your leadership. So, like I did the Resiliency Builder Leadership Training course,
Yes. Mm.
that stretched leadership and leadership thinking. When
Mm.
I got voluntold to go to the MESTECs, had to get in
Mhm.
Junior Sailor of the Year,
Mm.
that really expanded because it was uncomfortable. It was hot. We was on an amphib in the middle of the deployment. When I get sent to VFA 34,
Mhm.
which was in my first aviation squadron as command master, had an awesome CEO in Commander Perry Solomon, Will Bathurst. And then you learned from them and they learned from you because they were aviators their whole career. It's important that you always be in the condition of learning, right? Prideful people don't learn. Prideful
Mm.
people feel like you can't tell me anything. You have to humble yourself and learn from those who's already did it and did it well.
Mhm. I love it. 1000%. Leaders, what are you gleaning from this conversation? I'm inviting you right now to go ahead and put in the comment section. Tell Gene and I what is resonating with you. What are some of the small, consistent disciplines that you have seen that have allowed you to have long term leadership impact? We want to hear from you. So, Gene, servant leadership is often a cornerstone of military culture.
Okay.
How has the principle of serving others influenced your leadership style throughout your career and in your work today?
Because I watched folks who really were servant leaders and I mimicked what they did. Because everybody taught servant leadership, everybody don't do it. Um,
Mhm.
I saw leaders who really were servant leaders, and a lot of times they operate also this principle of reaping and sowing. It goes like this: whatsoever man or woman sows, that shall they also. Whatsoever they sow, that shall they also reap. If you plant a seed of apples in the ground, and the ground becomes fertilized, you're going to get an apple tree.
Mhm.
Um, and I think if you see people who sow good seeds, the other one, Delta Lee Warren Henson, when I got Junior Sailor of the Year, apparently he had been a Sailor of the Year. And he made sure I was blessed to get all this stuff, a plaque on my wall now. Free meals at Bennigan's, free meals at nice place out in town. I interviewed with, I think, the Virginia pilot, all this cool stuff. So when I became a command master chief,
Mhm.
and I had, now the Sailor Year program was mine, the guy before me who was the CMC, they didn't do anything to recognize people at VFA 34. So I went and did the research. I even created a team that worked with this, and we were able to give them stuff. That way, sailors see it's worth working hard to get
Yeah.
rewarded. If they
Yes.
see the guy or girl before them, right, who said they're a servant leader, they become Sailor of the Year, and they maybe not even get a blurb in the eval. It was
Mercy.
my job to shift that, to
Mhm.
send a message to people that said, hey, it is worth being a servant leader. It is worth sowing good seeds. Look what this person got. You could do the same thing. And so I reshaped of the quarter programs. I rewrote the instruction. I reshaped, and even when other recognition programs called, R.T. McLean was my CAG CMC, and he was always sending me stuff to say, hey, send me the name of your best sailor. So I actually created a command recognition coordinator. And my
Mm.
first requirement is that person had to be a former Sailor of the Year. My second requirement is person to be a senior chief petty officer because senior chiefs are the top 2.5% of the Navy. And I was blessed to have AOCS Jorge Maldonado first that did the program, and we were able to
Mhm.
get a lot of our folks consistently recognized. If
Wow.
you, Adrian, have a son or daughter, they call you, hey mom, I just got Kara Air Wing 2 Sailor today. They gave me a coin. I get a
Mhm.
chance to sit on the bridge. They're giving me head of the line. That
Mhm.
motivates you as a parent.
Absolutely.
And number two, it motivates them to say, wow, my hard work did pay off.
Mhm. I love that 1000%. And so, what we can glean from you, from what you just shared with us, is as we look at servant leadership, right? It means asking, what do people need to succeed?
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you had an experience, and when you found yourself now in the position where you could bless others, you did. Right? How can we remove barriers? Leaders, that's a part of the questions. To whom much is given, much is required. You are
Yes.
given this platform, right? So, how
Yes.
can you remove barriers for those that you're leading? And then, how can we support growth and readiness? And your example shared with us exactly how you did it in real time. And so, leaders, we want to be able to take notes from this script, right? We're asking ourselves a couple of questions. What do the people that I serve, that I lead, what do they need to succeed? How can I remove barriers and how can I support their growth and readiness? What an amazing conversation. This conversation is so valuable. And so I want to ask you this as we turn the corner. Here's the final question that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Gene, having led in both highly structured military environments
Mm-hmm.
and complex public sector spaces, how do you help leaders navigate change while still maintaining trust, morale, and mission focus?
Well, the first thing you have to do, you have to understand the thinking of the military person versus the thinking of the civilian person. If you have been in any organization 20 years or more, you are now institutionalized.
Mhm.
So institutionalized people have a tribe, a rule for the tribe, order for the tribe, and how the tribe operates. Who's institutionalized? Prisoners, professional athletes, law
Mm-hmm.
enforcement and first responders, and military. Those
Mm-hmm.
folks have rules. If you look at football, they have preseason, regular season, postseason, short time off, rinse and repeat. You look at law enforcement. If you've done that job more than 20 years, you're automatically programmed to react a certain way when you hear certain noises. If you're definitely in the military, if a meeting's time is 10 o'clock, 9:45, you're in seat ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As you now slide over to the civilian world is now like Walmart on a payday. And you
Mm.
know, if you go to Walmart on a payday, up close parking spots are difficult to get. There's a lot
Mm.
of cranky people because there's people everywhere. You go
Mm.
and you see bread stuck in the milk aisle. So you see the milk thing, you open the door, someone stuffs bread in. This is the civilian world. One of the things you have to do is one, learn the environment. So when
Yes.
you're institutionalized, the environment is easy to learn because you know it, you know the rules, there's instructions, there's governance, there's guidance. When you come out of that institutionalized way of thinking, learning the environment is like going to Walmart. If you know, okay, it's the first of the month, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I might not want to go today. I might want to wait till a couple of days from now. It's the same thing with leading in the civilian environment. You got to one learn the environment. You got to sometimes learn the unwritten rules. You got to sometimes gain trust for those who've been successful in that environment. And then you
Mm.
have to tailor back your institutionalized way of thinking. I
Mm-hmm.
remember one of the first meetings I had during my transitioning out of uniform. The meeting time was 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
9:45 in my seat. 9:55, no one showed up. 10 o'clock, no one showed up. 10:05, the supervisor showed up to the meeting. And part
Mm.
of me had to calm myself down because, Gene,
Right.
you're not the guy in charge anymore.
Right.
Gene, you got to learn the environment. Because you could be that prick. Why are you late? Why are you late? Why are you late? So the first thing they're going to say is, who are you to ask me if I'm late?
Right.
So
Right.
you have to learn the culture and climate. You have to learn Walmart operates way different than a commissary.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that if you're not in your tribe, the rules, there are people who understand them. You need to get their wisdom and their understanding.
I love this. I want to thank you so much for sharing with us today. This has been a really invaluable conversation, and you have caused us to really stop and think about the fundamentals of leadership and servant leadership. And so I know that there are listeners and viewers that would love to be able to engage with you, kind of share with you what has resonated with them. What's the best way for them to be able to do
LinkedIn. Please feel free to look for me on LinkedIn. Wow, look at this. I like how you have it up here already.
that?
Um, because of God's grace and his blessings, he blessed me to have a dream career. I got a chance to be the sailor year. I got a chance to make chief the first time up. I got the chance to take a squadron that had failed everything, and then we won everything. And the Navy's reward was to keep us deployed. That's what they
Mercy.
reward. I was blessed to go to a shipyard. We had 11,168 people, and unfortunately, I saw a leader get fired. But I was blessed to have get some wisdom and knowledge even from that scenario. I would just share with people that one, gain wisdom. Two, expand the way you think. Even
Mhm.
though education is getting bashed nowadays, get educated.
Yes.
Get those leadership certifications. Seek wisdom. Put
Yes.
God first. That's the first and foremost. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. God
Mm.
does exist. Seek him through Jesus first. And then you have to glean and learn from leaders who poured into you what
Yes.
they did to be successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, listeners and viewers, you know what we do. We want to and we try to support all of our guests. And so you see the link for Gene's LinkedIn is here on the screen. It's also in the description box. I'm inviting you to go ahead and find him on LinkedIn. Let him know that you saw that you heard this episode. Let him know what resonated with you. And feel free to ask him questions. He has a wealth of knowledge from his leadership experience. Gene, thank you so much for joining today. It has been an absolute joy and privilege to be able to have you with us here on Transformation Station. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm humbled for being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, what an amazing session today. A special thank you to Gene for sharing such a powerful leadership wisdom and practical insights with us today. I was reminded that leadership that lasts is not measured only by rank or position or accomplishment. It's measured by the lives impacted, the trust that is built, and the example left behind for others to follow. I know that today's conversation resonated with you, so I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to share this episode with at least two leaders in your network who are ready to commit to growing with purpose and leading with integrity. And remember, transformational leadership is built one decision, one relationship, and one active service at a time. So until next time, keep growing, keep serving, and keep leading with impact.